Zack Snyder brings Superman and Batman, plus a few new friends back to the big screen this weekend with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And it is the film that we'll be talking about today on this edition of The Real Deal. Welcome back to the Man Attic. It's been way too long, but we're glad to be back here. I'm Kevin Pauly.
And I'm Brian Hatcher.
And today we are taking a look at what has got to be one of the most anticipated and discussed films of 2016, and that's Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Brian, you and I just saw this last night. Mm-hmm. It has definitely been making waves all over the internet, all over society, basically, because it is definitely a talked-about film, very divisive. You could definitely say. What were your thoughts on this film? Because you are a comic book fan, you are an author, you are a film geek. So what did you think of Batman v Superman?
Well, this is a strange film because it's not a film that you could really just talk about the film itself, because there's so much going on outside this film, which is, political and with the studios, and especially due to the fact that Warner Brothers years ago decided to basically turn this into a Marvel versus DC contest, and that kind of brought that hornet's nest into all of it. It's a very difficult film, I think, to talk about the film itself. Certainly the critics have not been kind.
No, they have not.
But the film that I saw last night, do I feel like it's as bad as the critics are making it sound? I don't think so. I don't think it's necessarily as... I don't think that it necessarily deserves all the flack that it's getting. At the same time, is it a good film? In my opinion, not really. It has a great deal number of faults.
Well, I will say this. Those who know me know going into this, my absolute non-love, complete hate relationship with Man of Steel. I hate that film probably more than any film I've ever hated in my life, mainly because of the fact that they just did not understand the character that they were trying to bring to life. Their version of Superman just did not gel with me. I don't want a Batman-flavored Superman. I want Superman. And I've heard so many people make the complaint, well, Superman, you can't do that today. And I'm like, well, Marvel does it every year with Captain America. So don't tell me you can't do Superman, because if you can make Captain America work, by God, you can make Superman work. And Superman is a character that, as a kid, I always loved. As a comic book fan, he's always that problem character, because how do you kill a god, basically? He's almost unstoppable. But there are obviously things about him that make him more vulnerable, and that is his humanity. And it's his humanity that I feel was missing so desperately in Man of Steel, and continues to be, MIA in Batman v Superman. But as you said, it's not a film that deserves, I personally think, all the flack that it's getting. And I can't say that it was my film. Like, I can't say that it's something I truly enjoyed. There are parts of it I think that are really great. There are parts of it, though, that just drove me nuts. As I told someone, if you follow me on Facebook, this is the best analogy I can give for this film. It is like a Long Island iced tea. You put in all these things together, and man, when you're drinking it, you're like, this is an awesome drink. And you're drinking it, and you're drinking it, and you're like, man, this is pretty good. Man, that really hit the spot. And then the next morning, when all that alcohol kicks in, you're like, oh, what was I thinking? That was a bad idea. And I think what it is this film tried to bring The Dark Knight Returns, and the death of Superman, and the injustice gods among us, and even, all this other stuff that it tries to shoehorn into one movie. I think that's the issue, is Warner Brothers didn't, in essence, sort of pay their dues like Marvel has in developing the Avengers. Instead, they just really went from point A to point, R in the alphabet to get their Justice League film put together. And it's a film that suffers because of that, because it bears way too much weight. And the thing is, the storyline and the directing can't support that weight. And so for me, it really crumbles, especially towards the end. But there are good things to talk about this film, so let's get those out of the way so people don't think that we're just here to hate on it. Because really, the things that I do like in this film, especially having a day to think about it, are things I really, truly like, and things that I will look forward to as the DC Cinematic Universe continues. And I think the biggest thing we have to talk about there is Batfleck. Ben Affleck as Batman. Wow, he really and truly owns that role for me right now. And I'm telling you, this is by and far, if you're a fan of the Frank Miller Batman, and you've been waiting for that since the mid-'80s when Dark Knight Returns came out, you finally got it. You finally get your wish. And man, he is rock solid.
Oh, I absolutely. I mean, with all the hate that Ben Affleck got, when it was announced that he was going to be Batman, of course, you and I both were like, oh, that's not going to be a problem. He's going to be fine. I think if there's any problem with Batman in this movie is that the movie tries to push him into being the Punisher.
Yeah.
When they're not basically trying to push him into being a prophet.
Yeah, I don't quite understand. See the dream stuff that they had with him. We'll talk about that when we get into the story stuff. But
Certainly.
But looking at what Ben Affleck had to do, which was overcome all of the internet fanboy rage, which is very similar to me when Heath Ledger was announced as the Joker, and I'm like,
right.
Okay, if you've not really seen Heath Ledger, then you don't understand why this is a good choice. And it was the same thing with Ben Affleck. I'm like, look, if you've not seen him in anything post Jersey Girl, go watch The Town and go watch Argo, and then you'll understand why I'm excited for Ben Affleck to be in this role. And I will tell you this, as the film ended, all I could think when I got out of the theater was, boy, I really can't wait for the Ben Affleck directed and starring Batman films that I am sure are going to follow. Those films are going to be amazing. Let me just go ahead and say that.
Yes.
That is the thing I will most look forward to for this film. Now, along with Batman, you have to have a good Alfred, and this time we've got Jeremy Irons. Jeremy, Academy Award winner for Klaus Van Bueller Irons, and he's friggin' epic in that role. I mean, really, he's not in it a lot, but man, every time he is on screen, you feel his presence, and he is someone that is just like that perfect blend of what Michael Caine and what Michael Gough tried to bring to the character.
Yeah.
He blends it all together, and I think really might be the best Alfred I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, and a lot of his lines are definitely out of The Dark Knight.
Oh, very much, yes. He is the Dark Knight Returns Alfred. No question.
Exactly.
No question. So, there's definitely the biggest good of this film. The other good that I will definitely say was Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. The problem is the trailer kind of shows you all of the stuff that she does in the film, and that trailer really is a big part of the problem I have with the film because it literally took all the wind out of the sails.
Right.
But she is fantastic in the role of Wonder Woman and as Diana Prince. She plays both roles very well, and again, very excited for her World War I themed film, which you do get some hints of in this movie. That film's going to be amazing, I think. And boy, I'm telling you, she really does step up, and she completely holds her own with Batman and Superman there at the end.
Oh, she certainly does. And I know, again, just like Ben Affleck, a lot of people had a lot of complaints with Gal Gadot because it's like, oh, she's too skinny. Her acting chops are not there. I mean, she hasn't had a lot of good showings, in other roles that she's done. I feel for this one, although you don't really get a chance to see her fully stretch her wings out and act.
She's very servable.
But she certainly does, and I think, honestly, we'll certainly see how well she does when she's at the lead and she's the only, and she's carrying the movie.
I will say this though: when she's on screen and when she's moving, she's Wonder Woman. There's no doubt in your mind who you're looking at, and really, she is a brave fighter. She's a fierce fighter. She is Amazonian through and through, and that's what I loved so much about seeing her in this. She really gets to shine when she finally steps up. Boy, there she is. Those are the best things I can say really about this film. The Batman stuff is outstanding. Everything he does, the way he moves, the way he acts, the Batmobile, the Batwing, the Batcave, all that stuff is so friggin' super cool. Like, it really is, man. I really enjoyed every time he's on screen. There are definitely, for fans of the Arkham Asylum games, there's a fight sequence that is straight up Arkham Asylum.
Yes.
It was like, I was like, wow, someone studied the Rocksteady games and they did a beautiful bang-up job of doing that. So if you ever wanted to know what Arkham Asylum would look like in real life, you will see that in this film. But everything with him works. The armor looks great. The regular bat suit looks great. Again, the technology he has is great. The grappling guns are cool. The sniper rifle with the little tracking device. It's all really cool. He's just really cool when he's on screen. This Batman is older. He's grizzled. He's kind of lost touch with that humanity of himself. And that's where he has an actual character arc in this film. And again, Ben Affleck, I think, does a tremendous job of being Bruce Wayne and being Batman, and blending them both great. He's got a great Batman voice. It's a little augmented with his suit, but it's a really great Batman voice. He's got a great persona as sort of the playboy, almost drunkish Bruce Wayne, and then of course the cold as ice, stone cold deadly, focused Batman, and both sides of him are fantastic, I think.
Oh yeah, I think if I have any complaints with the portrayal, of Batman, and I wouldn't lay this on Ben Affleck, but more on the story. They did push him a little toward Punisher territory, maybe a little bit closer than they necessarily needed to do.
I see what they were doing with it, but I agree it is pretty extreme. The film definitely, I can say this, I would not take a little one to this movie. I would not. It's intense. Batman, like I said, in this point, he's kind of looking at him, even at himself, he looks at himself as almost like a criminal.
Yeah.
And it's that... The whole thing of what Superman is supposed to do is basically bring that back. So we're getting ahead of ourselves
here.
But
we'll talk more about that,
now,
certainly.
Henry Cavill, of course, as Clark and Superman. Now, here's the thing. I really like Henry Cavill in the role as far as, like, he looks great. He's got, I think he's got good chops. The problem is this script does not allow him once again to be what I think Superman should be. He's still Bat Superman, and I don't need an angst-ridden, emo Superman. That's not what we want. Yeah. That's not what we deserve. And we're so past the point now of saying, oh, he's still feeling things out. He's still trying to figure it. No. We're into this now. We're 2 years since Man of Steel in this film. He should know more. Right. And it's still not there. So really, I'm not going to fault Henry Cavill at all. Again, he looks great. He sounds great. He's a very good persona of Superman and Clark Kent. When he does everything he can basically with a poor script. I feel like the stuff that Chris Terrio did, I think, is all of the Batman stuff, and I feel like David Goyer is still doing all the Superman stuff, and Goyer just doesn't get Superman. He just doesn't get him at all, and that's not Henry Cavill's fault. That's just where it's at. So, on the other side of good things, there are some really great visual moments in the film. If you're a fan of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, there are plenty of homages to that, including even the death of his parents at the hands of the gunman, the shot with the pearls and the gun. It's great. There's some dialogue straight out of it. There's really good stuff there. Visually, the fight sequences, when you can tell what's going on, it looks really good. Batman, again, always looks good in his armor. He always looks cool. Superman, when he's flying, looks really good. The only CG issues I have, and we'll get more into this as we get into the story, are really towards the last half hour of the film. Yeah. That's really where it honestly kind of fell apart. Other than that, it's a good-looking film. That's one thing I will say. It's shot very well as far as the dramatic points of the film. Action's a different thing, but the actual dramatic points of the film, there are some really great shots. Larry Fong did a great job shooting the film, just like he did with Watchmen. It's a good-looking film. That's, for me, about as far as I'll go on what I will give praise to. I'm going to let you say one more thing before we move on. Do you have anything yourself?
I think I pretty much agree with you on that. And as far as what I enjoyed about the film, I mean, you called it a Long Island iced tea. I called it a sugar rush.
Yeah,
because it is
very similar,
and it is very much that. A lot of stuff happens in this film. I mean, I saw references to, along with The Dark Knight Returns and the death of Superman, also Flashpoint. You have Superman in Court, which is a lot of
the trial of Superman. Yeah,
the trial of Superman. Yeah. But also, I see a lot of hints of quite frankly, Captain America, the Winter Soldier in there.
Even hints of Civil War, you could even say.
And some hints, certainly a lot of that. So, I mean, it tries to do a lot of things in the 2.5 hours that you have. Does it all work?
That's where we're going into the negative side. Now, here's the thing. Do I think it's a terrible film or anything? No, it's definitely, for me, better than Man of Steel. And that's somewhat faint praise, but it's praise. And we've just spent quite a bit of time talking about what we liked about this film. So here's where we get into what we didn't like, and there will be a little more in-depth talk on this. So if you've not seen it, you may want to come back and check with us after you have. So let's get into the issues that we have. Now, for me, direction, once again, is an issue. Zack Snyder, here's the thing. I really, up until Man of Steel, defended Zack Snyder left and right. I mean, I really have. I truly enjoyed his Dawn of the Dead remake, and I think if it were called anything but Dawn of the Dead, most people would have enjoyed it even more. I really enjoyed his 300, and I really enjoyed Watchmen. I think he had truly, like, the unenviable task of taking the densest, most highly regarded, biblical in nature of graphic novels of all time. The only graphic novel that Time Magazine puts on the top 100 books of all time. To take that, because Hollywood is Hollywood, they're going to make a film out of it, okay? And they're not going to give it a series of films. They're not going to make it what we all wanted, which was that HBO or Showtime miniseries kind of thing. No, they're going to make it one film. And if you have to take that whole thing and make one film out of it, he made absolutely, I think, the best film you could have made out of Watchmen. And it's a film that, honestly, the director's cut, I have it right over there in the steel book and everything. It's a film that, honestly, I like it the more I watch it. There are so many things right with it that the few things I have issue with are things that, honestly, they were going to be issues for me because that film also had to be made for John Q. Citizen. So I've supported Zack Snyder. Even when we saw Sucker Punch, okay? Even though that film's a convoluted mess as far as its script, very similar to what we're going to be talking about next, visually that film's amazing looking. And all of his films are always very well acted. He gets great cast, and he works well with them. He makes pretty pictures. No doubt about that, he makes pretty pictures. Now, then we come to Man of Steel, and now Batman v Superman. And here's where I thought, okay, when I first heard he was directing it, I'm like, man, what a great choice. Because when you think about those fight scenes in 300 and in Watchmen, those slow-mo scenes, those macro-type shots where, you see like bones breaking and you see like those slow-mo punches and stuff. And I thought, man, can you imagine what a Superman film is going to look like with that kind of thing, that huge, powerful guy and those powerful things he can do? And instead, that film was edited like a mess. There's no slow-mo shots. Everything's fast-paced. Everything's cranked up to 11 from the word go. And it's just a painful experience. I was numb at the end of that film because I was just so worn out of it all. And when we come into this film, while he does have a little more restraint, I feel, once you get into the action sequences, once again, it's the same problem. None of those awesome Zack Snyder things that you'd think would be there, again, the slow-mo shots, his macro shots, none of them are there. And it seems like he and Christopher Nolan, for some reason, and I love the Christopher Nolan trilogy up to Dark Knight Rises, but the issues I have with Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises are the fight scenes, and that's this whole idea of having the camera in so close that you can't really see what's going on. You don't see the geography of the fight. Mm-hmm. And I take real issue with that because it becomes like a steady cam headache. I mean, I can't fathom watching Man of Steel or Batman v Superman in 3D. My God, I don't even want to think about that, and I will never watch those films in 3D. But the fight scenes are so close in, so again, you don't get that sense of what's really going on. Again, I'm not big on that. The other issue with this film is the pacing of this film. And a part of that is also with the script. So let's kind of lump those together here when we're talking about this film is a mess as far as its pacing and tone and message. It is all over the place.
Yeah, and the thing about it is you have an Oscar-winning screenwriter working on this
and Argo, script. Man, I'm telling you folks, if you've not seen Argo, watch Argo. For me, it's one of the best films I've seen in the past 10 years.
And the thing about it is, if it's true what they said, you had two Oscar-winning screenwriters working on this because they said Ben Affleck may have done a pass on this.
I feel like the two of them worked on the Batman stuff because the Batman stuff in the film is so good.
And that's what I find frustrating about this film because I can look at this film and I can see good things in there.
Oh God, yeah.
But I think by the time it got to the editing room is where everything went wrong. The editing was just so terrible in this. I mean, one thing that I can think of right off the top of my head is you have that moment where Lex Luthor is requesting the body of General Zod. Yeah. Now the thing is, before then you saw him with that body, experimenting with kryptonite, right? So is this a flashback when he's talking to this guy and he's getting this stuff now? Is it a flashback or I mean,
did they let him come in and at least tinker a little bit? And
exactly, you don't know because there's really no kind of indication of where these scenes kind of fall.
Right.
And the real problem with the pacing of this script is they have, again, it's like they deal with Flashpoint, they deal with the death of Superman, they've got the Dark Knight Returns, they've got the whole political thriller stuff, like again, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But the minute they get done with a plot point, they hit the brakes immediately.
Yes.
I mean, to a point where when they got done with all the political thriller stuff, they literally blew up Congress.
Truly.
And to stop it.
Yeah.
And of course,
it's like they had nowhere else to go. They wrote themselves into a corner, and so boom, here you go.
Exactly. And every plot point, it ends with them hitting the brakes every single time. There's no
and really and everything with the Congress stuff. I mean, I know what the point of that is to set up Superman as possibly destroying Congress, but the thing is, by the end of the film, it doesn't even matter. No one even seems to remember it. No one even seems to care.
Well, no, he's never accused of it at all. He was never accused of doing it. The whole point of it is, with Congress being destroyed, it wasn't necessarily a frame-up of Superman. And this, again, is something else that frustrates me, is that inside of this goofy character that nobody likes, Lex Luthor, there was a really interesting character there. Mm-hmm. You have a nihilist, somebody who is an agent of chaos. Yeah, that kind of makes him the Joker, but...
Oh, they tried very hard to make him the Joker.
They really tried that. Yeah, he's somebody who's had to deal with a controlling father. He sees who he saw as a god, that he's somebody that if you say no to him, he can't deal with it.
Right.
Because he's been out of control, he's been held under the thumb of his father, and he feels the world for the majority of his life. He blew up that congressional hearing because that woman said no to him. That senator said no to him, and he couldn't put up with that.
And apparently he peed in a jar too. Let's go through that out there.
Yeah, the possibility of an interesting character, but what's the problem with him? Well, what does any bad actor do when they're told act crazy? They act like exactly what Jesse Eisenberg. Now, I'm not saying Jesse Eisenberg is a bad actor.
No, I really like his work. I loved him in The Social Network. I love Zombieland.
But he was directed to be a bad actor.
He's basically, and this is true, many people have compared him to Jim Carrey's The Riddler from Batman Forever, and that's a pretty astute comparison, because he's a mixture of Jim Carrey's Riddler and Heath Ledger's Joker. He really is. That's the best way to describe him. And the problem with that is that, Lex Luthor, of course, let's also talk about the fact that he's not Lex Luthor, he's Alexander Luthor, the son of Lex Luthor, which is why he's not bald, and there you go. But, the simple fact is he's a smart dude. He's a scientific genius. I've always thought in the DC universe that Lex Luthor was almost like the evil Batman. Mm-hmm. He's super smart, has all kinds of money, has all these different ideas and plans, and his idea of helping people is more of helping himself. If he just had a suit like Batman, he really would be Batman. I mean, really, truly, he is. And so that's always, to me, what's made Lex Luthor a very interesting character. He's usually, 9 times out of 10, the smartest guy in the room. And he's already got plans upon plans upon plans before you've even thought of your first. I mean, he's like a chess player, dude. He's 5 moves ahead of you, man. And that's what makes him such a great villain. And I thought that's what they would go with, knowing them when they cast Eisenberg, because Eisenberg plays those kinds of characters. I really thought if they would just take basically what he did in The Social Network and turn that into Lex Luthor, bam, you'd have a pretty amazing Lex Luthor. But instead, he's like mentally unhinged. He has all kinds of crazy nervous tics. He can't finish sentences sometimes. And I'm like, why did we make this choice? Because this is not threatening. He's not a threatening Lex Luthor. He's just a shade above Gene Hackman's from the original film, where he's in a freaking sewer system with Miss Tessmacher and Otis.
Yeah.
This Lex Luthor's not that far removed in a lot of ways. And then, of course, at the end, you've got him trying to be the Joker, and I'm like, what? This was not necessary. I don't get this. So
there was a complex character there, and it just
That's the thing.
It just didn't make it.
There are things he does. He puts things in motion. And I'm like, hey, that's actually pretty cool. I see what he did there. That's pretty neat. And that's cool. But it's like, unfortunately, that character is so over the top and almost grating that I really just was kind of gritting my teeth every time he was on screen. So that's a big issue.
Yeah.
The pacing, again, this film will go from, serious moment with Batman and Alfred. Then we've got like lovey-dovey moment with Clark and Lois. And then we've got crazy stuff with Lex Luthor. It's just all over the place. And if you're going in for the fight between the two of them, you got to wait about almost 2 hours to get to it out of a 2.5 hour long film, and it's less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's even that, it's less than 10 minutes. And the ending of it, we'll get to that, because my God, I literally about threw my hands up in the air and was like, what the hell?
Exactly.
So anyway, the script, the pacing, definitely big issues. The script is so jumbled, and again, it folds in on itself from all the weight that was put upon it that said, you have to make this movie, establish Superman, establish Batman, establish Wonder Woman, even throw in hints of other Justice League members so that we have a Justice League movie ready to go. And that was it was unfair. It really was. It was an unfair move. They really needed to pay their dues. And to be honest, the characters that DC has are so well known, are so iconographic that they genuinely could have just went to making a Justice League film.
Yeah.
And nobody would have had an issue with that. We know the backstory of Batman. We know the backstory of Superman. bring in the new guys. Show us what's going on. Let us just get into that. And that's almost what this film does in a lot of ways. But then there's still the convoluted mess of trying to remind people of who Batman is and remind them of who Clark Kent is and setting up Wonder Woman. And, it's crazy stuff. It really does. It buckles under its own weight. And it really, it didn't quite cross the finish line for me. No. To be honest, of the 2.5 hour film, the first 2 hours of it are okay. They're okay. There are some really good moments and there are some really moments. But the last 30 minutes when all the big battle stuff is happening is honestly where I about checked out of this movie. Because unfortunately, if you've seen a trailer, you knew what was coming. Right. You knew that there was going to be the fight with the two of them, and you also knew that Doomsday was coming. Oh, yeah. Oh, dear God, Doomsday. One of the worst ideas in the history of long bad ideas.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that character is that you realize, Doomsday, they do change his origin story a little bit. It's like they take Zod and you put a little bit of human DNA with Zod and you put them together. When you put Kryptonian and human DNA together, you get Doomsday, which basically tells me that if Clark and Lois decides to have children, they should adopt. Okay,
they'll be creating an abnormality.
Exactly.
So let's get into really the thing. Now there are some amazing moments with Batman. I'm not going to lie. There's a chase scene with the Batmobile that, other than the fact that the camera's in so damn close, there's still some really cool stuff in that chase scene. There's of course, you've got Superman doing some kind of neat things where he's like saving people in a rocket ship and saving a little girl and stuff like that, and it's cool. But the problem is they still want to beat us over the head with the fact that he's an alien. And I'm like, you completely missed the point of Superman. He's a human. He's adopted Earth as his own planet. He would tell you he's from Kansas, not from Krypton. That's who he is. And they're so intent on making sure that Lois and Martha remind him that you don't have to do this for anybody. You don't have to be this. You don't have to do that. And yeah, he does, because it's who he is, and it's just, I get so tired of that stuff.
Well, again, here's a movie where, they change Superman from being who he should be, which is the most human person on the screen, to this alien, and once again, it doesn't serve the story.
No.
It didn't work for Man of Steel, and it certainly doesn't work for Batman v Superman.
Well, let's go into some of the nitpicking stuff here then, because we are film geeks and we're comic book geeks, so we're going to nitpick. Okay. Other things I liked, I forgot to mention earlier. I really like Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White.
Yeah.
And he has some great lines in this movie. He really does. He has some great lines in this movie. His delivery is fantastic.
And one that pisses me off.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
But I really do like him a lot in the film. Then let's also look at Amy Adams. Okay, God bless Amy Adams. She's such a great actress. And if you've not seen American Hustle, by God, watch American Hustle. Yeah. She's magic in that film. Really, she's so good. And it pains me to see, once again, Lois Lane is nothing more than Miss Exposition. And she's so misused and so put in stupid situations that she should not even be in. And only because, we got to have a love story. And it's so painfully bad how they integrate her into this movie that I just was like, there were points at the end of the film where I was like, what the hell? Like, I literally was like throwing my hands up, like face palming in the theater at the stuff they had her doing.
Oh, well, and the dumbest part of all, and it would be dumb if we just saw it, but the fact that they acknowledge it in the film is that moment when you have Lois on that roof with Alexander Luthor. And he says, I need to get we've already seen Superman's he's near the Fortress of Solitude. He's out in the snow on the pole. And Luthor's like, I need to get Superman here. And the best way of doing that's putting you in danger. Pushes her off the building, and Superman appears to catch her, literally just out of no freaking where.
Yeah.
It'd have been stupid at all, but the fact that in the movie, they point out that anytime Lois Lane is in danger anywhere in the world, Superman will just poof appear and save her.
It's so bad, because Lois Lane is such a great character. She's a strong woman. She's a smart reporter, and they really don't let her do that. She's just there for Superman to rescue once again, or just there for exposition to happen. And it's such a criminal misuse of the talents of Amy Adams. And the same can be said with Martha Kent. You've got Diane Lane, who's a phenomenal actress. And she's great, don't get me wrong, but you've got her even saying, you don't owe these people anything, and I'm like, why would you say that? I mean, I know you're a mom, you're protective, but at the same time, your son can do these amazing things. There are people who are alive today because of your son. Do you really think you should tell him that, no, you don't owe anybody anything? Like, it's not that. That's not why he does it. He doesn't do it because he feels he's indebted for it. He doesn't expect to get repaid. He does it because it's the right thing to do, and it's how his parents raised him. Yeah. And in this film universe, Mom and Pa Kent are kind of dicks, and I really don't like that. I really don't. And so it's like that's an issue. And again, it's sort of an underuse of a fantastic actress. Diane Lane is an amazing actress. Then we get into the finale of this. Okay, so we've got to have Batman take on Superman. And Batman ends up getting access to kryptonite, and he makes this awesome, like, Spear of Destiny kind of thing, basically, out of kryptonite. So he's ready, man. He's got that cool-ass armor from The Dark Knight Returns. I mean, it looks so great. I mean, it really does.
He does also make 3 kryptonite smoke grenades.
Yes, the smoke grenades are totally BA. I'm not even gonna
lie. They are.
And the fight with him is so like a video game boss. Like, you've got to hit them with this first before you can hit him with this. And it's like, oh, I see what they did. I kind of dig that. It was kind of funny. Yeah. But that's really cool. It's a smart way for him to be able to equal the playing field as to how he could honestly hang with Superman. And so anyway, okay, so we get to the big fight, which is all set up because Lex Luthor, in his jokery way, has kidnapped Martha Kent. And so, of course, Superman has to do what he can to save his mom. So he tells Superman, bring me the head of Batman, and I'll give you back your mom. And, of course, we're like, why would you even believe that? Because he's not going to do it. So anyway, so Superman goes to fight Batman. And so Batman is ready, and Superman's like, I'm going to stop you. And if you're not going to help me, I'm going to have to stop you, and blah, blah, blah. So they get into their big fight. So you've got, kryptonite gas grenades, and you've got, throwing through walls and stomping through glass and all kinds of crazy stuff. And literally in about 6 minutes, it's over. And it ends in the most, like, contrived way possible. Batman has his boot on Superman's throat, okay? I mean, he is ready to deliver the death blow with this gigantic kryptonite spear. And Superman literally says, you have to save Martha. Not like he would, in all honesty, say, I'm trying to save my mom. I need you to help. He literally says Martha. He has no reason on earth to say that in that moment. It should be thinking about his mom and not just saying out loud Martha. And literally, Batman's like, what did you say? What does that even mean? And it was like so funny. I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? And so I was like, it was so funny. It's just an odd delivery, and it's such a poor attempt at what they were doing. So he's like, my mom, her name is Martha. And that's what stops Batman. And all of that rage that he has built up to, and all of that fear and that lack of trust, and that if there's 1% chance that he could kill us, there's 100% chance we have take him on as a villain. He is right there ready to deliver the death blow, and that one thing is going to stop him. Yeah.
Well, you keep in mind, it wasn't actually Superman that said, that's my mom. We had Lois.
Oh yeah, Lois shows up to say...
She goes, it's his mom.
It's his mom, yeah, because Lois has to be there to explain that.
Well, you have to believe that she's exposition girl.
Yeah, she's Captain Exposition. So that is what stops the fight. And I'm like, you've got to be effing kidding.
Well, again, they're done with the fight, so they hit the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, slam them, buddy. I mean, it's slam.
We're done with this. We got to stop it.
And so now we've got to rescue Martha. Now, I will say, my favorite line in the film is in this moment. And Ben Affleck delivers it beautifully. It's such a great moment. When you now know, of course, they both have a mom named Martha, and Batman now realizes that another Martha might die. When he looks at Clark and says, Martha won't die tonight. When you realize what that means to him, like this is a night that this woman named Martha is not going to die. It's a great moment. And they're trying to set that up when Superman says that line, but it's so convoluted and so, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me, screenwriting 101 bad. Yeah. That it's just, I mean, that would have gotten like a D plus maybe in screenwriting 101. It may have gotten an F, I don't know. But that Batman's moment there is so good that I was like, okay, so what do we do? Okay, so Batman and Superman now have to team up. And we have this gigantic spear with kryptonite. Okay. Yeah. Now, I'm just saying, if you're Superman, you might be thinking, we probably should do something with this so that just some jackass doesn't end up with this spear and end up shivving me somewhere when I'm not expecting it, right? Yeah. And Batman might even think to himself, this is a powerful weapon. I still don't know about you, so I probably need to keep this just to keep things in check. So what do? Completely leave it. And what happens? Lois Lane is out there by herself. She picks it up and throws it in this like water area where this building is collapsed. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what? No, you did not just... I mean, I literally threw my hands up in the theater and was like, you did not just have her do that.
You do realize you're going back after it.
Yeah, you know it's going to come back. Because, again, the trailer showed too damn much, and we know there's still this fight to come. Okay, so, that stupidity happens. Yeah. But then we follow that up with the badassery that is Batman and Alfred teaming up to rescue Martha Kent.
Yeah.
And, man, that's where the Arkham Asylum sequence happens. Yeah. Holy shit. Pardon my French. That was a great moment. I'm not even going to lie. That right there was worth the price of admission.
It still suffered a little from...
It still suffers from that close-up camera shot stuff. Yeah. But more so than not, it's a good scene. You can still pretty much tell what's going on. Right. The geography is still pretty solid there because it's just in one room. You have walls that confine it, so it kind of helps with the geography. But, you know, that is a great moment. And even when Martha Kent looks at him and he's like, I'm a friend of your son's, and she's like, I kind of figured it's the cape. It's like, that's a great moment. I mean,
it's like, but didn't they say no jokes, though?
Yeah, they weren't supposed to make jokes, right?
I think maybe either Chris or Ben...
I'm certain they put that in there.
Stuck that in there. It's like, maybe we can get away with at least some levity.
So now we go, Superman's going after Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor even has the line, here is your doomsday, and it's friggin' doomsday. And Doomsday looks like if Grey Hulk had a baby with the friggin' cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That's what it is at first. Okay. Then, as he evolves, he gets the bone spurs. And then he looks like the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk that Marvel did had a baby with the cave troll. And that's what it made. It's just a bad design. It's terrible CG. He never once looks real, and it completely, at that point, just took me out of it as far as, like, wow, this is a bunch of sound and fury signifying nothing. It's so pointless. But then let's also add that there are 2 drinking games you can play in this game.
Yeah.
The first one is... take a drink every time Anderson Cooper lets you know that wherever Batman, Superman, and Doomsday are, that it's evacuated. But luckily, that's the place where luckily they'd already closed down for the evening, so everybody had left, and they landed on Stryker Island. Oh, thank God, that place is deserted. It's like, we get it that you got the criticism from the first movie, but you know what? What you should have done, honestly, was just owned it. And just went with it. Instead of literally taking every moment you can to be like, oh, thank God, there's no one there. It's like, I was laughing. You and I were laughing. And there was like these teenagers in the front who were looking at us like, why is that funny? And I'm like, I guess you didn't watch Man of Steel because, man, this is hilarious to me. Like, it's hilarious. Now, the other drinking game is take a shot every time that Lex Luthor says God or devil. You'll be drunk within about 10 minutes, probably to a lethal level.
You know, and not meaning to derail the conversation, but this is one thing that bothered me about the whole thing with Warner Brothers, and because this is one thing that they really wanted to drive home in Batman v Superman is all of us who said Space Jesus in Man of Steel, we were wrong. There was that moment where you have the people saying, we look at Superman as a messiah figure because we tend to do that, and that's all on us. Which is basically the filmmakers looking at us, the audience, and going, hey, you know all that stuff about Space Jesus? You projected that. That had nothing to do with us.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact that we had shots of him, like, literally on, like, the crucifixion.
Yeah, and you have him standing in front of a picture of Jesus. But let's look at Batman v Superman. Not only do you have Batman shot, you have a scene of Batman in Mexico that looks like Jesus walking. Superman. I say Jesus because there you go.
There you go.
Superman looking like Jesus walking into Jerusalem. Not only do you have Batman, who's now a prophet, having prophetic visions. Not only do you have somebody vandalizing Superman's statue by writing false God on it. Not only do you have Lex Luthor constantly talking about God and the devil, but even in his father's study, do you have the picture of the War of Heaven on the wall?
Yes.
Not only do you have all of that, but you end the movie with Superman sacrificing his life to save the world, and you open your movie on Easter weekend. What am I projecting? Tell me what I'm projecting to this movie.
That's pretty much it right there in a nutshell. So anyway, okay, so there's Doomsday. And so after all the drinking game is over, it might be the best way for me to tolerate this film again.
Yes.
So we get to the big battle, and now Wonder Woman finally shows up, okay, like as Wonder Woman, not as Diana. Now, she's awesome. Man, she's got the friggin' bracelet things, the goggles on her arm. She's blocking lasers and crap, and she's got the sword and the shield, and she's hacking off Doomsday's arm for crying out loud. I mean, there's some really BA moments with her. You even get the damn golden lariat, and that was awesome. Once that lasso comes out, I was like, yes, they actually brought that into this thing. Now, if she just flies away on an invisible jet, I'm good. This is awesome. So, she's great. Really, she's great. And in that fight scene, she's awesome. She saves Batman's ass. She saves Superman's ass. She's badass. She's great. She's awesome. So the three of them, of course, come together, and there's your money shot, which they already ruined in the trailer. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, I know where this is going, so let's watch them fight Doomsday. Well, first of all, we get Superman takes Doomsday like sky high up out of the atmosphere. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is what you were supposed to do with Zod in Man of Steel so that you didn't have Metropolis get destroyed. That's all you had to do was shoot up. And this time, it's like, oh yeah, remember that? Oh yeah, I should probably take him up into space. And I'm like, my God, this is what you were supposed to do in the first movie. That eliminates the whole problem with the first movie. And they do it this time, and I'm like, oh my God. Then so the United States military is like, we have to nuke them. It's the only way. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to nuke them in space. Go for it. All right, let's do it. Yeah. So they get nuked, and Doomsday falls onto Stryker Island, which, thank God, is empty. Thank God it's completely uninhabited. And Superman finally gets to recharge up in space with the sun, which I still hate to say it, the version of that in Superman Returns is far better than what they did with this here. It's such a more emotional moment. Because I've always said, when Superman is done right, it is truly like the sun exists for him.
Yeah.
Like some entity thought, God or whatever, thought, you know what, one day this guy's going to be here, and he's going to need this, so I'm going to make sure he's got it. And I get really kind of choked up when I think about it that way, because that is, to me, what he always, personified, like the greatest things about humanity. And so, yes, that sun should be there just for him. And in Superman Returns, when you see him after he's been stabbed by kryptonite, and he flies up into space, and you see him, like, clench his fists, and you can just tell the energy is surging through him, and he just beelines it straight down to the planet. Yeah. I was hoping for something a little bit more like that. But it's still cool, because he still gets charged up by the sun, and he goes to fight Doomsday. So we're in this fight, and so suddenly they're like, oh yeah, remember that kryptonite spear we might need? Yeah, we need to get that. So Lois is like, oh, I know where it's at, because I threw it in water. So she jumps into the water to get it, and of course, crash by the building with Doomsday. She's, the stuff collapses, she's trapped underwater. So what does Superman do? Stops everything in this major fight with this thing that's getting stronger the more it gets hit with energy. The more it fights, it gets stronger, much like the Incredible Hulk. That's for you, Lee Hara. So suddenly he stops everything to go save Lois and to get the spear.
It's even actually worse than you're making it sound, because it's not that he stops fighting. The fight stops. Everything goes quiet. You don't see anybody. Where did Wonder Woman go? Where did Doomsday go? Where's Batman? No, there's nothing. He hears Lois and takes off. I mean, everything stops. It's like Doomsday said, whoa, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, yeah, let's go. Sorry, dude, I didn't mean to knock her under the water.
Hold on. He's got to go take care of her.
I mean, it's true. I forgot about that. It's like you would think in the middle of all of that disaster, I mean, they're destroying this power plant, there's explosions, Doomsday's radiating energy, there's laser blast, that somehow he hears that. Like, I'm kind of like, well, I mean, I know he has super hearing, don't get me wrong, I get that. But, dude, you've got a much bigger fish to fry at this point. So it's like, that was just so, what the hell? And then it's like, they go down and get the spear, and of course, then he has to tell Lois he loves her, just like the end of Death of Superman. And I really started thinking to myself, no, they're really not going to do that, are they? They're not going to do that now. Oh, they are. Okay, so Wonder Woman cuts off Doomsday's arm, and it grows back in this giant bone spur thing, which is pretty cool looking, I won't lie. And so Superman comes just full tilt. Wonder Woman's got him with the lasso. Batman's him with that last kryptonite gas bomb, which is like, oh, that's genius, because it'll weaken him so that Superman can get a good punch in. And here comes Superman with that friggin' dagger, and blam, right into the middle of Doomsday, and blam, right through his back, and yeah, he's got him. And then Doomsday's like, bone spur through the chest, blam, and Superman dies.
Yeah.
So they literally did the complete Death of Superman story in this film, along with Dark Knight Returns, along with Injustice and Flashpoint, and all the other stuff that they add into it, the trial of Superman and all of that, you now have this. And so they end the film with everybody being all mopey with the death of Superman. Now, here's where I get into a number of issues I have with this. Okay, first of all, it's the same issue I had with Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek Into Darkness tries to redo the scene. And if you're a Star Trek fan, you know the scene is, of course, the death of Spock. I'm not even going to say spoilers because if you haven't seen it by now, screw you. It's not a spoiler. Just go watch it. So we have the death of Spock, and it's an impacting moment because, of course, if you're a fan of the series when it was on in the 60s, you've known these characters now for 2 decades. And this is back in the time before the internet and things, and no one knew it was coming. And no one knew there was going to be a third film. And so it's a very final moment when it happens.
Right.
And it's a very powerful moment. So in Star Trek Into Darkness, okay, this is the second film out, and Kirk and Spock are pretty much still, not best friends. They bicker and they fight, and they're not really best buddies. So this time at the end, they're like, oh, let's switch it. Let's make Kirk die, and Spock will be sad, because sequel reboot. And so they kill Kirk. And the problem with it is this. They didn't earn it.
Right.
The death of Spock was earned. It was genuinely earned. It had 2 decades to build to. Okay, through syndication, through fan fiction and books and all kinds of other stuff. People loved those characters. They kept them alive, and it was earned. With the death of Kirk in Star Trek Into Darkness, it was not earned. This was their second mission, for crying out loud. You did it because you tried to evoke something out of the audience that was not there to evoke.
Right.
We did the same thing with the death of Superman. Suddenly, of course, the world is all like, oh, he's dead. And there's this big parade for him in Washington. These are the same people who were putting him on trial for his, the destruction of Metropolis. These are the same people in America who were hanging, images of him in effigy, who were burning, dolls of him, like friggin' piñatas of him. These people hated him. They were, protesting against him. And now all of a sudden they're lining up the boulevard in Washington, D.C. And of course we've got the real funeral happening in Kansas. And it's like, okay, you're really trying hard. You've got Hans Zimmer playing that piano, really trying to milk the emotions out of you, really milking those tears out of you. Lois is sad, and Martha Kent is sad, and Batman and Wonder Woman don't really know what to think, but they're sad.
Oh, yeah.
And the music is sad. And there's even a bagpipe player in Kansas somehow. I don't know that there's many bagpipe players in Kansas, but they got one in Smallville, and he's there to lead them to the service. And then you've also got the huge 21-gun salute and bagpipes and all these people in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah, because everybody who's ever seen Wrath of Khan knows that if you want a sad death scene,
you have to have Amazing Grace being played on bagpipes.
Exactly.
So here we go. So we're in this, and this is the end of the film, folks. Let me remind you of this, okay? So the kids that were in the audience and stuff with us don't really know what to think at this point.
Well, exactly, because their parents probably hadn't even met each other when the original.
Death of Superman comic came out. Yeah. There was a 4-year-old beside him, and I'll get to him in a second, but there was a 4-year-old beside him. He didn't know what to do. He was just like, what's wrong, Mommy? Why is he dead, Mommy? Is he? And I'm like, no kid should have to be asking this question in the second film of your series. So here's the thing. Okay, so Superman's dead, and of course at the very end we have a shot of the pine box that he's in Kansas, and the dirt starts lifting up. So of course we're going to have Superman come back. Of course we're going to. It's the same thing with Star Trek Into Darkness. We know they're not going to kill Kirk. We know they're not going to kill him because he's Captain Kirk. He is the main character of the franchise. So that death, not only did you not earn it, there's nothing at stake. And now, because in the Star Trek universe of films, we know that Khan's magic blood can bring tribbles back to life and humans back to life because somehow they share the same DNA, I guess. I don't know. Because science. Now, of course, in this world, Superman's already died. Yeah. So now he's going to come back. And now there are no more things at stake because we know that Superman can die and come back.
Right.
You've literally taken all the wind out of the sails. Now, if that moment were to happen when Darkseid comes, and by God, they hit you over the head with the fact that he's coming. But if that would have been the case, where you build up and have a couple of films to where we really see Superman become the leader that he is destined to be, the leader of the Justice League, the anchor, the rock of that organization, and then he falls in battle to the greatest superpower of all, of Darkseid. Now that would have done something. That would have meant something. But in this case, it's like, oh, he has to die because the comic book he died.
Right. Yeah.
No. It was just, at this point, I was facepalm watching the film. And I'm like, this is the most like convoluted BS. Let's also add to the fact that you can so tell in the rewrites upon rewrites upon rewrites of the script, oh yeah, we got to make sure we add other people from the Justice League. So how should we do that? I know, an email.
Yeah.
Let's send an email that has little video clips so you can watch Aquaman look at the camera and be like, here's my spear. And you can see the Flash like stop a criminal and get milk. And you can see Cyborg go through like levels upon levels of like terrible things till he becomes Cyborg. And there we are. And I'm like, this is like, really, let's shoehorn in all this stuff because we have to do it. Yeah. Let's shoehorn in the death of Superman because comic book said so.
Right.
And I'm like, there's a point where you become a little bit too slavish to the comic. You could have had the death of Superman, but like I said, save it for later. You didn't have to have Doomsday in this film. It could have ended with them two fighting, coming to terms, and the rescue of Martha Kent and stopping Lex Luthor and getting him behind bars. You could have ended it right there. It totally could have been over at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
But instead, they have to go full tilt. I mean, by God, crank it up to 11 again, and let's actually kill off Superman. I mean, you were talking about the kids that you saw after the screening. They looked like they'd come out of a funeral.
They were completely hangdog. I mean, you see all these kids in Batman T-shirts and Superman T-shirts, and they're just kind of, they don't know what to think.
Well, the 4-year-old beside me went through the phase of crying his eyes out at the beginning during the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne to being so bored out of his mind he was playing with the seat beside of us, like making it go up and down, to the point where he was literally confused about the death of Superman. Like, why is he
and the thing about it is this, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but the problem I see with Warner Brothers in this movie is they don't know who to market this movie to. On the one hand, they're saying, hey, this is a more adult take on everything.
It's an adult take, yeah.
It's an adult take. It's a grittier, we're not trying to play, to the fluffy, Marvel movie.
We're not the Marvel's light and fluffy.
Which that argument became invalid the minute, you saw The Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
okay?
I agree completely.
So maybe not so much. But the thing is, that's fine. If you want to make a more adult movie, that's fine. But don't make toys for kids then.
Yeah.
Don't market to kids. If you don't want to make your movie to kids, don't market toys to kids. But they do, because they don't know who they want to market to.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, if you are marketing to kids, what's this going to... You kill Superman at the end of the movie, and you kind of tip off that, okay, he's going to be fine, but not in a way that a kid's going to get.
No, it's a very subtle thing. Like, an adult's going to understand, but a kid won't.
Exactly. So, sure, those kids feel like they just went through Vietnam, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, really, there were a lot of, seriously, shell-shocked looks on kids' faces. I was kind of surprised. So, from a parent standpoint, now I can tell you, my son has not seen Man of Steel, and I don't want him to see it, and it really pains me to no end that there is a Superman film that I don't think is appropriate for my son to watch.
Well, isn't it even sadder that when we took... what movie was it that we went...
Well, we saw Ant-Man.
We saw Ant-Man.
Yeah, and they had the trailer for Batman v Superman. Cameron looked right at me and said, I don't want to see that movie. And I said, why? He said, because Superman's not supposed to be like Batman. Those are his exact words.
Exactly.
And he had never seen Man of Steel. He did not know of any of the issues I have with it because I never talked to him about it.
Right.
And those were... from the mouth of babes, dude. My 9-year-old kid literally said, that's not how it's supposed to be. Now, his exposure to Superman is from... the Justice League animated series, Justice League Unlimited, Justice League, which was phenomenal and still the best telling of those characters yet. And also the Superman, the animated series from the 90s that was also brilliant. Paul Dini and his crew, tremendous. And, of course, the original Richard Donner Superman, which was my first exposure to the character that wasn't the Hanna-Barbera Super Friends. So he has a lot of different Supermans he's watched. But honestly, I've always said that the Warner Brothers animation team gave us the pinnacle of Batman and Superman and Justice League stories already.
Oh, the definitive
time. I almost wish they would just bring in Paul Dini and Bruce Timm and say, make a live-action film. Like, just, here you go.
But no, they didn't do that. What they did was they moved the entire comic section to Burbank and fired Paul Dini.
Yeah. And now he's making awesome cartoons for Marvel, so there you go. Exactly. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's the whole film. And I'm sorry this is such a long story, but this is a lot of stuff we have to talk about because it's a lot of movie. It's 2.5 hours long, man. It's not a short task to watch. And it's not an easy film to watch, at least not for me. Now, okay, as always, I will always say, these are just our opinions. Okay?
Right.
There are plenty of people there who will probably love this film. And to you, I say that's fantastic. That's awesome. Because, man, if you love this film, that's great. Go support it. Because here's the thing. I want DC films to succeed. Why? Because I want the comic book genre to continue to stay alive in film because I'm really enjoying it. You know, I want Marvel to have success. I want DC to have success. I want them all to succeed because I want to see these universes grow. And I do feel like what DC is planning down the road with the Batman films and Wonder Woman, there's some good films to come. Dare I say even some great films to come from the DC Cinematic Universe. Now, I'm not thrilled about the fact that Zack Snyder's already working on Justice League because I did not care for Man of Steel. And I really, honestly, overall didn't care for Batman v Superman. I'm hoping that maybe by the time we get to Justice League, they'll be like, you know what, let's just kind of go nuts and have fun and do something different. My thinking is they probably won't. I was very disappointed when he said, you know, people had asked him why he didn't get Grant Gustin from the Flash TV show. Now, that's the thing. DC, by God, on television, they got it nailed.
Yeah.
Nailed. Because if you're not watching The Flash, oh my God, it's like the greatest show. It's phenomenal. It's so good. And that kid is so good as Barry Allen. And when asked why they didn't just bring him into it, he didn't fit the tone of our movie. Oh, the whole 15 seconds that the Flash is in the film, he didn't fit the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If that's how you're going to be, that's fine. But here's the thing. You've got an already very well-established universe on television. You could easily integrate that, like Marvel has done. Their TV and movie universes are connected. They could easily do that and already have a jump start on Flash and Arrow and Atom and Hawkman and Hawkgirl and all these other great characters. You could already have those ready to go to put into your movie. And they would be amazing. Your movie would benefit on so many levels by doing that. But no. It doesn't fit the right tone. Now, The Flash, my son and I watch it, and he loves it. And I love to watch it with him. Because he gets excited about it, I get excited about it, and we geek out together. And it's wonderful. And Arrow, same way. Legends of Tomorrow, same way. It's wonderful stuff. And just like when I get to watch the Batman animated series with him, or the Superman animated series, or Justice League, I love it. Love it. It's so great. With these, I will not take him to see Batman v Superman. Luckily enough, he doesn't want to see it. And it really bothers me that I'm in a place where there's 2 Superman films out, and one of them is a Batman v Superman. And I would have never thought in a million years I'd ever see that film, and it's a shame that film is not what it should be.
Yeah.
I will say I just saw a short film yesterday on YouTube, and it's called One on One, and it's, to me, in 11 minutes, it gets Superman better than the nearly 5 hours of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman could even ever do. And it's this really awesome little story where Clark Kent, as a reporter, not as Superman, meets this girl who's a runaway, and he kind of talks with her and finds out her story and kind of gets her to rethink things. And it's so simple and it's so well done. Go on YouTube and look up One on One, or look up One on One Superman story. I had tears in my eyes at the end of it. It was great. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's, to me, I was like, yes, that's Superman. The guy they even have playing him even kind of looks like Henry Cavill. And it's great. I was like, why can't... These people got it so right without him even being in the cape. Why could they not figure it out for the film? And once again, it's the question I just don't have asked in this second film. So I know we went through an awful lot of things, but those are the ups and downs of what we found for Batman v Superman. Brian, final thoughts as we wrap this up.
Well, my final thoughts are, yes, this movie doesn't quite stick the landing, certainly.
Oh, God, no.
Certainly, if you are a DC fan who has a lot of emotional investment in this movie, I'm sure there will be enough to carry you on and say, yes, I love this film.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, if you're a Marvel fanboy and you're just prone to hate this movie, you're going to find plenty of stuff to hate in it. If you're on the fence, I don't know if there's enough in this film either way to kind of sway you.
Right.
But who do you blame for it? I don't know if you can blame the actors. Certainly not. That we have great actors.
No, I would not put any of the blame on them.
I can't necessarily. I don't say you can blame the screenplay necessarily, because you had some
aspects of it. You can, yes.
Yeah. But for the most part, I think you had talent there that could have gotten you a great screenplay. I don't even know necessarily if you can completely blame Zack Snyder.
No.
Because, honestly, he used to know how to direct action.
Yeah.
He's now doing this... He's doing this action cluster F, where it's like you're taking action figures and sticking them in a blender, and you can't tell what anything is going. But he used to be able to shoot action better than this.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anybody to blame for this... It's Warner Brothers.
Agreed completely. I was about to say the same thing.
Warner Brothers is the problem. Warner Brothers is a problem because they want $1 billion movie, one or two of them a year, and they don't care where that comes from. They have no investments in these characters except for how much money they can make.
Yep.
They wouldn't be touching these characters at all if it wasn't for the fact that Marvel's making money on them, and they want to make money too, and they don't have a tent pole anymore like they used to.
Right.
It's their problem because they don't know how to market this movie. It's their problem because they lowball the figure for this movie and then let it blow up to ridiculous aspects where it was way too low to begin with, and now is way too high. It's their fault for basically putting pressure on everybody for this movie to perform. And it's their fault for not allowing these movies to develop organically and to give it the time that they need to develop so that we can invest in these movies.
It's also their fault for not trusting their fans and not trusting the source material.
Yeah. Lack of trust is the big deal. I mean, absolutely. And until they either get people that they trust and get out of the way and let them do their work,
much like Marvel has.
Say
like Disney has, because most people had that big fear when Disney bought Marvel of like, oh God, they're going to Disneyfy everything. You know what Disney said? Nope, you guys are doing your thing. You're doing it great. Just go do it. How much money do you need? Here you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's write you a check. And they did the smart thing. Same with acquiring the Star Wars franchise. What do you guys want to do? You want to do live action? You want to do like more like in-camera effects? What do you need? Okay, go do it.
Exactly.
Here you go. We're not going to... No, that's it. Go do it.
Yeah.
And I wish that Warner Brothers would do this and step out and just let those films... Like you said, I wish there was a more organic feel to these films. I wish that we would have had a Batman film, a Superman film, a Wonder Woman film. I would love to see a friggin' like a Flash film. Or an Aquaman film. Aquaman could be their Thor. I mean, in a lot of ways, just like Wonder Woman could be too. You could have this huge epic with Aquaman that would be like, knock your socks off, badass.
But the main thing Warner Brothers needs to do is they need to learn to eat off their own plate. They need to trust their own characters. They need to stop trying to cram everything that they think works for Marvel in there, which is why you have, this whole political thriller aspect to it. You have a Flash that kind of reminds me of Quicksilver. In the little that we see him, he's kind of their Quicksilver, instead of letting him be, his own thing.
Like the show does.
And stop making this a pissing contest. Okay, it's not Marvel versus DC.
No,
get rid of that. It's come to bite you in the behind in this movie. Because
let's be honest. This film honestly has, as far as the United States market is concerned, about a month and a half to make as much money as it can. Because once Civil War drops. And once X-Men Apocalypse drops, it's kind of done.
You've chosen to turn this into a contest. And what amazes me is I looked at the Friday numbers, and I'm stunned that it makes it made more domestically on Friday than it made internationally. And when was the last time any film, underperformed internationally?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's really weird.
Because now it seems like the international market is one that they care about just as much, if not more, in some aspects now.
Because you make more money, because obviously you have more countries, And I mean, with that huge release that they had, how are they, here's the figure, and, this is just my speculation. But if this weekend of Batman v Superman doesn't gross more than the opening weekend for Deadpool, I think a lot of people at Warner Brothers are going to be really worried. And I think they're worried now just because of these reviews.
Well, yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes thing. And, critics are critics. We're critics. And, again, you can listen to us and be like, giving us the middle finger the whole time right now for all I know. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't care. If you like the movie, that's great. I don't need you to, assault me on Facebook saying, you're wrong and here's why. No. It worked for you. That's great. It did not work for me. And there's nothing you can do to change my mindset on that.
Yeah, that was the movie's job.
Yeah, the movie was supposed to do that, not you as a fan. Yeah. You weren't supposed to do that. Now, here's the thing. I'm a huge fan. I have always said, to me, I'm stunned that DC, being owned by Warner Brothers, didn't already have this stuff going on. Yeah. I'm stunned that we got the Avengers before we got the Justice League. And I'm stunned that they have not had the best films because, man, Green Lantern was a dumpster fire. That was a terrible film. Oh, but as bad as that was, Man of Steel just really irked me to nobody's business. I've never hated a film so much in my life.
Yeah.
And that's really saying something. And I mean, I really just genuinely hate that film.
Yeah.
Well, and then with Batman v Superman, I mean, it should have been like, the second coming. Yeah. And it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Now, I will say it was like the second coming of Batman because, man, Affleck's for real. I mean,
Yeah.
he is straight up
Yeah.
faux real. I mean, like, that dude is going to be aces when he gets his own film. And Jeremy Irons, oh my. Like,
Yeah.
the two of them,
Yeah.
I wish that it almost was just Batman. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. Because everything great about the film is Batman and Wonder Woman. I said the best way for me, my title for the film would be Batman and Wonder Woman, surviving over all this convoluted dreck. Because really, it's such a mess of a script. It is all over the place.
Yeah.
In the end, you're on the pretty much in the mindset of I would not recommend it.
Yeah. Although I'll tell you what, I will give it, so that the DC fanboys don't think I'm just going to trash this movie. Let me give my quote for recommendation for the movie: Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. It's not the Fantastic Four.
There you go. It's not Fanforstic. So there's
No.
that. It's not Fanforstic.
So it's certainly better than that.
Definitely better than that. So there's that. It's not Green Lantern.
No.
And it's not Man of Steel, which for some people will say, oh, but I like Man of Steel. Okay, that's fine. If you liked it, that's great. More power to you. I'm glad you liked it. I did not. I hated it with every fiber of my being. But here's the thing. My thing would be this. Okay, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. There are things in it I loved. There are things in it I hated. But the overall film, I would say, is more meh. Because they can't... There's no happy medium here. It's either really on fire or it's just cold in its tracks. And then it's really on fire and it's cold in its tracks. And unfortunately, those last 30 minutes, just literally, I was like, I'm done. This is so boring now because, first of all, let's also put an extra blame on Warner Brothers marketing.
Yeah.
For giving away Doomsday, because that's why there's no emphasis, really. There's no emotional impact with Batman fighting Superman, because if you've seen the trailer, oh yeah, they still got to fight Doomsday.
Yeah.
So yeah, this isn't going to be that bad. And it wasn't. I mean, it really wasn't. So I would say this. Go see it if you're curious. Go see it if you're a DC fanboy. And I don't say fanboy is a negative term ever, because I'm a fanboy. We're all fanboys of stuff. So don't think I'm using... I don't use this as a negative term at all. I don't think geek is a negative term. I don't think fanboy is a negative term. I fanboy all day long. If you're a fanboy, go see it. And here's the thing. I would tell most people to at least go see it once, just so that there's the tickets sales, just so that the film will at least perform enough so that hopefully we'll get this expanded universe to grow. My fear is, like you said, if it doesn't perform Deadpool numbers, that Warner Bros. Will start yanking the plug on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that happen. Genuinely cannot tell you how much I want to see a Ben Affleck directed, Ben Affleck starring Batman film with Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I cannot stress enough telling you how much I want to see that film. Or series of films. I want to see that so bad I can't stand it. I really want to see the Wonder Woman film. I really want to see a World War I era film with Wonder Woman. I think that sounds amazing. And the pictures of her and the Amazonian queens are amazing. Like, yes, this is it. It's very Game of Thrones. The director's from Game of Thrones, and it looks like it. And I'm like, yes, that's what it should be, because it's awesome. And so I would tell you, support it on the promise. And this is a big thing to say, but support it on the promise of what could come. And that's a very hard thing to do. Yeah. But I would tell you, support it on the promise of what it could bring. So will I say, no, don't go see it? No, I'm not going to say that at all. I would tell you, if you're curious or think you'll enjoy it, go. If you're a parent and have little ones, if they're under the double-digit age, I don't know.
No.
You know your kids better than I do, but I will tell you, I think there's a lot of things here. There's language, there's violence, because I will say this Batman's not afraid to kill. I don't really have an issue with that, because honestly, all throughout history, Batman's either killed or hasn't killed. There's different versions of Batman out there. The original version, he had a gun. I mean, he came with a gun. It was his accessory. Freaking pistol. He shot dudes. The Batmobile in the '89, Tim Burton film has machine guns on it, and people get blown up. And in Batman Returns, he sticks a bomb in a dude and throws him in a sewer, and he blows up. I had no problem with that. But if you grew up with the animated series where Batman does not kill, you won't like that. I will tell you, that will stick with you. I also don't like the fact that, again, there's just so much death, with these characters. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't have death. The problem is just when it feels like that it's not been earned, or it feels like that there are ways around it. Now, this film does a much better job than Man of Steel did. So if you're a parent who saw Man of Steel and was like, I didn't want my kids to see 9/11 imagery in a comic book film, The first 10 minutes of this have that again, because you get to see where Bruce Wayne was when it was all happening, but it's at least far out enough that you don't quite get as much of it. And then, of course, there's the fights as they happen. There are some pretty vicious moments. They're cool, but they are vicious. So, for me, again, supporting on the promise of what could come. Will I see it again? Doubtful. No. I don't even know if I'll own it. If I do, it'll be to watch the Batman stuff. Really and truly, that's what I would watch it for. It's one of those films. I saw it. And like I don't have a desire to see it again. I really don't. Now I'm going to do another podcast here in a bit for Zootopia. Now that's a film I would go see again. Zootopia will be a top 10 film for me, and I'll talk about why later on. But for this review, as we're wrapping up, again, Brian's on the no side, and he has very strong convictions as to why, and they're legitimate beefs. I am on the support it because of what could happen down the road side of it, not support it because it's a great movie, because I really don't think it's a great movie. I will say that it's somewhat okay at best. But I even still kind of hate to throw that kind of praise, because really the last 30 minutes are so bad that I was just literally just not even involved. I was just watching it. And that's a shame, because that's where all the big stuff happens, and it was just, whatever. So that's where we are. So for those of you listening, we're going to have this course on our page. So feel free to leave comments, about what you think of it. Let us know what your thoughts are. And you can follow us, of course, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. If you're a YouTube fan, please subscribe. We're going to be doing more of these podcasts now because it's easier to get them out there quicker. We will try to do some video reviews as well. But just to get back in the groove, here we are. So, again, thank you so much for joining us. I know this has been a long discussion, but that's the beauty of podcasts. It kind of can be. And that's also, again, why we're kind of doing these too. It gives us a little more length to talk about things in depth. And again, when you see this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a lot to talk about. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us back in the Man Attic. We look forward to getting back into the groove now with The Real Deal. And to all of our Man Attic fanatics, thank you for following. Thank you for continuing to keep a lookout for us. And thank you for sending us emails or messages about, hey, when are you guys going to get off your asses and do another one? So we're glad to be back and doing that again. So anyway, signing off for this edition of The Real Deal, I'm Kevin Pauly.
And I'm Brian Hatcher.
And again, thank you for joining us. We'll have more reviews coming up. And let's all get ready for what should be a very interesting summer movie season. We'll talk to you later. Take care.